It's the end of 2022. Another year has gone by, which means you always have to take some time out to analyze what has worked well for you and what hasn't worked for me. So I've spent the last couple weeks really analyzing the market, taking a look at my Turo business, and really drilling down into what hasn't worked for me so I can quit using those strategies in 2023. And these are the top 3 things that I came across, and I'm almost certain that many other hosts are falling into some of these same traps that I have. So let's get into it. Now, the number 1 strategy that I'm going to quit using in 2023, and I think that this is really destroying people big time, is buying cars at MSRP or even 15 to 20% off of MSRP. So now what we need to do is kind of go back over the last couple years to really understand what I'm saying here. Now, in the last couple years, it has been absolutely insane for the car market. Car prices have gone through the roof and just became so overvalued because of supply chain shortages and an increase in demand. And what that meant was that car price values went up by at least 30 to 40%. So people really began overpaying for these vehicles in comparison to what they are actually worth today. Now, what we've known with the car market is that over the last 6 months, car prices have been steadily declining, and the rate at which they are declining is getting faster and faster. And what this unfortunately means for a lot of people is that they end up underwater on their car loans because what they owe is greater than what the car is worth. And that is, of course, a really bad position to be in financially. Now, going into 2023, one of the things that I think is so important is that you don't want to go off of what has happened in the last couple years when it comes to figuring out what is the best price you should be paying for your cars. Now, if you bought in the last couple of years, you probably overpaid. And the rule of thumb prior to everything going haywire in the last few years with car values has been that you have to get your cars at least 15 to 20% off of the MSRP to account for the excessive depreciation that the cars accrue when they are listed on Turo. However, now going into 2023, even for myself, what I'm going to do is go back and peg the car values to what we saw in 2019. And that means when I go shopping for cars and I look for a deal, I want to look for deals that are relative to what the prices were in 2019, because that's the last time we really saw somewhat of a normal market. And those are the deals that I'm looking for. So what that might mean is that you have to find cars that are maybe potentially 25 to even 30% off of the sticker price. And one of the tools that I absolutely love to use, you may have heard me talk about this, is CarGurus Price Index. It is an excellent tool to where you can go back as far back as you'd like so that you can see where car prices were and where they are today to get a relative and true picture of where you need to be. And that is truly what's going to help you determine what is a good deal. Now, the reason why this is so important is because when people buy cars at high prices and then they list them on Turo, sometimes they count on the fact that, oh, I could just increase the day rate by $20, $30, $40 to make up for the difference in a higher car payment. However, that's not exactly how the platform works, because there are maximum day rates that people are willing to pay for a certain car. And just because you have a higher car payment doesn't mean that somebody is willing to pay a higher day rate because of that, because that is all determined by the market and what the renter is willing to pay. So for me, in 2023, I'm going to ditch the 15 to 20% off of MSRP, and I'm going to go back to looking at 2019 prices and making sure that I find deals on cars that are relative to what prices were in 2019 and getting that big of a discount for it to make sense. That is going to be extremely crucial. All right, if you're liking this video so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Okay, the number 2 strategy that I'm going to quit using in 2023, and this one is so important, is stop making the assumption that there are certain peak seasons throughout the year on Turo's platform. So as we know, and Turo advertises this as well, there are typically 2 times throughout the year that are the busiest that we've seen. And in my 8 years of doing this, this has always been accurate up until now. And that is typically the summertime and then our holiday season, October through December. You can really count on business being very busy. However, something we've seen seeing just happen in the last couple months is I think we're really starting to feel the effects of the recession. And Turo was not around the last time we had a big recession here in the US, which was back in 2008 and 2009. So we don't have any previous data to go off of as to what happens to the Turo business when there is a recession. And I think going into 2023, it's extremely important not to sort of anticipate or think that there is going to be demand unless you actually have the proper data points. Now, this is where market research comes in, and it's extremely crucial, especially going into 2023. You have to really study the market for an extended period of time, upwards of at least 90 days to get a feel for how cars are performing. And if you want to learn more about how to conduct that market research, I would highly recommend that you check out my website at powerhost.club. I will walk you through hours of videos of doing market research so that you can really get a good grasp on which cars are performing and which cars are performing consistently well so that your profitability is there. Now, one thing we've noticed, I took a poll through my community of Turo hosts, and overwhelmingly, almost 75% of people who voted on that poll have acknowledged that this year's holiday season has been slower than last year's. And that is a glaring data point that you really want to take into consideration. Why are people not spending as much? And I truly believe that this can be attributed to the recession and the greater economic sort of market that we're in and what's taking place, right? We know inflation is high. We know the Fed has been increasing rates. Cost of goods and services has gone up. There are tons of layoffs that are taking place. Many companies downsizing, cutting down staff. So what's happening now is that people no longer have as much disposable income that they used to because the necessities are starting to cost more. And kind of like what we just addressed, we saw that happen with car prices, right? The average US car payment used to be in the $500 range. Well, just as of this past year, that has gone up to over $750. So you can see where cost of goods and services has really increased for the everyday consumer. And so I really think that when people are out looking to rent a car, they're looking at it from a different lens. It's going to be very budget friendly. It's going to have to be, mainly cars that are going to get them from point A to point B in most cases. So what that means going into 2023 is that we don't exactly know what's going to happen to the car rental market. Maybe things do follow the trend like we've seen in the past couple years, or maybe it's completely different. However, what I truly believe is that because of the trends that we've seen in November and December of this year, we can expect slower business next year due to the recession. And we know as the Fed continues to increase rates that this recession is likely going to get deeper, and it'll be a while till we feel the full effects of it and find ourselves coming out of it. So for me personally, going into 2023, I'm going to make sure that I'm not making the assumption that the summer is going to be booming or that the holiday season is going to be booming. And so what that means is I'm going to spend a lot of time doing market research and really tracking how cars are doing and how they're performing over at least a 90-day period, if not 4 to 5 months before you go ahead and you make that investment. So doing that market research now more than ever is extremely important, and you always want to make sure that you take the time to do that before you sort of jump in and make that investment. Of course, it's a new year. It's exciting to get that side hustle and, have that income stream. But if you're specifically purchasing a car for the purpose of listing it on Turo, then you want to make sure you lock in that time frame of doing research so that you really have a solid foundation that you're building your listings off of, and you can better anticipate how business is going to be. Super important. Now, on the flip side, if you really want to get in, but you can't find strong data in your market to support kind of your decision of purchasing a car, it is a fantastic idea to list the car that you might already have. That way you can get a feel in real life for how your market is performing. You can see how often your cars are going out, and that is going to give you some real life tangible data points to really figure out, okay, you know what, it is a good time to pull that trigger and purchase a new vehicle, especially because car prices are going down, and you know more or less how it will perform in your area. And the number 3 strategy that I'm going to be quitting in 2023 is not being afraid to cancel bookings. Now, in all my years of doing this, I've been really big on, having a very high acceptance rate, as close to 100% as possible for bookings, just honoring every booking that comes through, even if I got a bad gut feeling about a renter, or if maybe they didn't have the best reviews or communication. Now, going into 2023, I'm really going to change that, because one thing that I've seen in my years of doing this and talking to literally hundreds, if not thousands of hosts, is that when somebody really mistreats your car and you have that bad hosting experience, it is extremely demotivating, and it makes it really hard for you to kind of continue to keep your listing up and do a good job in providing your car on the platform. And going into 2023, I'm gonna be far more selective about who I rent my cars to. And if I ever get a bad inclination, I will definitely be canceling those bookings. And I think that this is really important for anyone who is just starting to join the platform, because this is probably the number one thing that I see deter people from continuing on with their experience on Turo. So if you do list on the platform, while of course keeping your metrics, your ratings high is very important so that you rank and your listings perform well, but at the end of the day, if you have a bad renter, somebody who's not communicating, who's not following the rules, not uploading their IDs, and just giving you a hard time, you should absolutely cancel that booking, because the last thing you want is for your car to end up in the wrong hands and for someone to give you trouble. And that's really the breaking point that I've seen for a lot of hosts, is that they'll have one bad rental and then they sort of want to wash their hands of this business, and they never get to see it at its full potential. And then it just gives a bad rap to the platform, in the eyes of the host, and to the renter as well. Now look, at the end of the day, while we may be listing our cars on Turo's platform and we have our host protection plans, it is all about the business owner, which is you. And you want to make sure that you have a good hosting experience. Oftentimes as hosts, we concentrate so much on providing our renters a good experience that you sometimes forget about the experience that you need to have as a host so that you can continue to flourish in your business. And that has to be a good renting experience. And that's everything from, catering to the type of renters that you want and hosting the type of cars that you enjoy. Because believe it or not, there is a huge difference in your hosting experience when you have different types of cars on the platform, cars that you personally enjoy, cars that yield high margins for you. It makes a big difference. So in 2023, I think being selective about who you rent to is actually in turn going to make you a better host on the platform. You will be more motivated to keeping your cars clean, to presenting them really well, and just offering a great service that in turn your renters are going to love. They're going to leave you glaring reviews, 5-star reviews about why you were such a good host, and that is just going to continue to fuel and drive your business. So as the year comes to an end, I really think that you should take some time to analyze your business this past year. Take a look at what's been working for you and what hasn't been working for you. And it's always so helpful to write it all down so that you get a good idea of what you are going to do in the upcoming year, and that way you start off with a strong foundation. Now, if you want to get a better understanding of how the recession might affect us as Turo hosts, you definitely want to catch this video that I made taking a deep dive into the recession and what it might mean for us.